amendments, that they be reported by number, and that the Senate vote in relation to the amendments in the order listed, with no amendments in order prior to a vote. Barrasso, 3055, Carper, 3330, Thune, 3106, Cortez Masto, 3317.
Is there objection? Without objection.
I yield the remaining Republican time on the resolution.
The senator has that right.
I yield the majority's remaining time on the resolution.
The senator has that right. All time on the resolution has been yielded back. Yes.
Madam President.
Senator from Wyoming.
Thank you, Madam President. I call up my amendment number 3055 and ask that it be reported by number.
The clerk will record the amendment by number.
The senator from Wyoming, Mr. Barrasso, proposes an amendment numbered 3055.
There will now be 2 minutes of debate, equally divided.
Madam President. Madam President, I'm offering this amendment to spare the country from the so-called Green New Deal. The Green New Deal is not about protecting the environment. It's about making big government even bigger. This socialist scheme would destroy jobs. It will reduce the quality of life for the American people. Millions and millions of Americans will suffer. It would worsen already high inflation. It will drive a stake through the economy and eventually bankrupt the nation. Senate Democrats have made it clear that they want to use this reckless tax and spending spree to implement the Green New Deal. Just last night, Senator Markey of Massachusetts made this statement. He says, without question, the Green New Deal is in the DNA of this budget resolution. Let me repeat. He said, without question, the Green New Deal is in the DNA of this budget resolution. Instead of raising costs on energy, we should be working to lower the cost of alternative technologies and fuels through innovation, not taxation and regulation. So I would encourage a yes vote on the Barrasso amendment and reject the job-killing Green New Deal.
Madam President.
The senator from Vermont.
Mr. Barrasso's amendment is interesting when he talks about the Green New Deal. The only problem is what he's talking about has nothing to do with the Green New Deal. Despite what Senator Barrasso says, the Green New Deal would not ship jobs overseas. In fact, it will create millions of good-paying jobs in the United States of America. It will not raise electricity prices. It will not make the United States dependent on dirty sources of energy from other countries. In case the senator from Wyoming has missed it, Oregon is burning. California is burning. Greece is burning. There is a drought hitting virtually every country on Earth. Newsflash, climate change is real, and the United States and other countries have got to address it. Madam President, as a supporter of the Green New Deal, I have no problem voting for this amendment because it has nothing to do with the Green New Deal.
The question is on the amendment.
Yeas and nays.
Is there a sufficient second? There appears to be. The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Baldwin, Mr. Barrasso. Mr. Bennett. Mrs. Blackburn. Mr. Blumenthal. Mr. Bennett, Mrs. Blackburn, Mr. Blumenthal, Mr. Blunt, Mr. Booker, Mr. Bozeman, Mr. Braun, Mr. Brown, Mr. Burr, Ms. Cantwell, Mrs. Capito, Mr. Cardin, Mr. Carper, Mr. Casey, Mr. Cassidy, Ms. Collins, Mr. Coons, Mr. Cornyn, Ms. Cortez Masto, Mr. Cotton, Mr. Kramer, Mr. Crapo, Mr. Cruz, Mr. Daines, Ms. Duckworth, Mr. Durbin, Ms. Ernst, Mrs. Feinstein, Mrs. Fisher, Mrs. Gillibrand, Mr. Graham, Mr. Grassley, Mr. Haggerty, Ms. Hassan, Mr. Hawley, Mr. Heinrich, Mr. Hickenlooper, Ms. Hirono.
It sure looks like Bernie Sanders now controls the party. It's systemic socialism. It's exactly what he's always proposed. You look at the bill that's going to, I guess, pass in the morning, the infrastructure bill. According to Congressional Budget Office, $256 billion. Now think about that. One bill, $256 billion of deficit spending. One bill. Now look, here's they just put out their budget outlook. This is what they think we're going to be like in 2031. 4.5 trillion in revenue. They're going to have deficit spending. You know how most people would put out a budget, how they're going to balance? They're not even trying to balance the budget. $1.8 trillion deficit in 1 year, 2031. And this is where they're going to take the debt. You know, right now we're at a little over $28 trillion worth of debt. I think 28.5, and we're about to hit 30 trillion. We've already passed the debt ceiling. They're projecting to take our federal debt to $45 trillion. 45 trillion. Now they're assuming interest rates are going to stay down. They're assuming in 2031 the annual interest expense will be $1 trillion. So not quite a quarter of our entire revenue will go to interest, which we will get no immediate return on. It's all because of money that's been spent in the past in deficit spending. Now, put that in perspective. If we go to the 50-year average for the 10-year, just the interest expense would be $2 trillion, and collections would only be $4.5 trillion. I mean, this is ridiculous, reckless government spending.
If you want to understand how power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely, look no further than the other chamber in the United States Capitol. Speaker Nancy Pelosi is drunk on power. The orders that Speaker Pelosi is issuing are abusive and unprecedented. Speaker Pelosi has decreed to members of the House of Representatives elected by the people that if you dare walk onto the floor of the House of Representatives without a mask, I, Speaker Pelosi, shall fine you. Who the hell is she to be fining members of the House? But you know what? She's not done with that. She's not done with disrespecting our Constitution, disrespecting our democratic system that elects leaders. She goes further. To the good men and women who work here in the United States Capitol, we are surrounded by men and women who have chosen to come and work for the public good. And here's what Speaker Pelosi has decreed. If you dare walk in the hallway without a mask, I, Speaker Pelosi, will arrest you. I will put you in jail. I will fine you. That is an absolute and complete abuse of power. She has no authority to disrespect the men and women who work here, to threaten you with physical harm, to threaten you with imprisonment. And why does she do so? She does so for one reason: political theater.